We are very excited and grateful to have Laila Brady Walzer with us today. Laila has a BA in music from Swarthmore College. She is a Muqaddam Murrabi Ruhii of the Shadhiliyya community, a board member of the University of Spiritual Healing and Sufism, and a leader of the Northeast Shadhiliyya Sufi community. We are really, really excited and happy to have her with us today. Her topic is joyful noise or singing for Allah in the shower. So thank you, Laila. We're really pleased and welcome.
Thank you, Abdullah, so much. So, a world of singers. We live in a world of singers, and the song is loud or soft, sweet or shrill, sometimes silent. But listen, with the storm approaching, someone shelters a robin's nest. Another whistles to a black dog on the beach. One laughs to herself, reading alone in the kitchen, and in the woodlot, someone grunts as he swings the axe. There's the sound the trees make after the wind stops. And there are those who look into the eyes of nurses coming off the night shift. Those greeting the undertaker when he arrives with his unique instruments. A man has just argued with his wife. Now he stands alone on the dark porch, watching the rain. One hums at the workbench, carving a delicate bird. Last night she groaned with relief after a phone call. One sighs as he imagines Odysseus tied in the mast, and one looks up when a bell rings and a customer enters his shop. One is astonished hearing the fox bark its own peculiar song, and one just stands on the rocks, listening to the sea. And I wanted to recite to you as well, inshallah, Surah Al-Alaq. This is the first lines of Quran that were revealed to the Prophet Muhammad. Some of you may know the hadith where the Prophet, peace be upon him, was in the cave praying and meditating as it was his habit to do. And all of a sudden, Jibril stood in front of him and squeezed him and said, read. And the Prophet said, I don't know how to read. And this happened a couple of different times. And each time, Jibril squeezed him harder and harder until the Prophet said he thought he couldn't bear it. And these were the first words that came out. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم اقرأ باسم ربك الذي خلق الإنسان من علق اقرأ وربك الأكرم الذي علم بالقلم علم الإنسان ما لم يعلم قال إن الإنسان ليطغى أن رآه استغنى إن إلى ربك الرجعى أرأيت الذي ينهى عبدا إذا صلى أرأيت إن كان على الهدى أو أمر بالتقوى أرأيت إن كذب وتولى ألم يعلم بأن الله يرى كلا لئن لم ينته لنسفعا بالناصية ناصية كاذبة خاطئة فليدع ناديها سندع الزبانية الله لا تطع واسجد واقترب صدق الله العظيم. So the very first words, and this was added to later, are read. In the name of your Lord who created the human being from a clot. Read. And your Lord is most generous, who taught by the pen, taught the human being what he knew not. So just to stop there, sometimes you may hear people say, let's read Fatiha, and especially people who are born in Islam, let's read Fatiha. To us, we say recite or sometimes sing. In Arabic, it's the same word. It's the same root word for dhikr, you know, with the recitations and the chanting that we do. It's the same, reading and reciting, and for Americans, singing. And so I wanted to address a couple things. You know, many of us who are in this tariqah, some of us come from a classical musical background and grew up singing in choirs and have a certain experience with chanting and singing and reciting and are somewhat also conscious about it in some ways. Others of us have some comfortability with a lot of not comfortableness. Some of us are just totally flummoxed by the idea of doing anything in a foreign language whatsoever, let alone chanting along in a group and that kind of thing. And I want to say that's all addressed in this surah, because it's written in us: recite, read, sing. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, read in the name of your Lord who created the human being from a clot. Now, you know, when we're an embryo, we know nothing. We're completely dependent. We're really just a clot of blood. And yet, we were created from that, and we're ordered to read, to recite, to sing. Read, and your Lord is most generous. It's like if we read in the name, we sing in the name of our Lord, there's just complete generosity. Ya Kareem, it's the unending generosity of Allah, who taught by the pen, taught the human being what he knew not. So it's handled. We don't have to know. We don't have to be good at it. We don't have to be singers. We were created to be reciters, singers, chanters. And we were, by the wisdom of Allah, called to a tariqah that specializes in healing, chanting, and teaching. Of course, most of our healing work focuses on bringing through the divine light in the prayers through chanting. And the medicine is all here. So, Abdullah, I wonder, are you willing to read the description of the this topic?
Sure. We are born from a joyful noise, are healed by joyful noise, even made with joyful noise. Sidi teaches that the Quran retemplates the sick body and mind and turns us to our Creator. Science is learning, too, for example, that singing in a choir can synchronize the members' heartbeats. Our practice as Shadhiliyya Sufis involves much chanting and Quran recitation. Let's explore our roots in joyful noise and become more comfortable with the practices, the chants and recitation that we do out loud, coming to know more deeply, inshallah, how we carry the first word.
Thanks, brother. And I want to say, you know, my experience, if I can just talk for another few minutes, my experience is that when my understanding, and again, I want to share what I've experienced and what I've learned. And if it can help you, great. You don't have to agree with it by all means. If it helps you become more at ease with reciting, with chanting, with singing, with becoming more truly who you are through sacred sound and sound, that's wonderful. That's really my intention here. Every time Islam has come into a new culture, it's bumped up against the norms of that culture. It's normal. And we've probably discovered that when the most holy night of the year, Laylat al-Qadr, falls on a Tuesday night, and we have to go to work the next day, or at least get the kids off to school. Or our boss asks us, what days do you need to take off for Eid? And you're like, I have no idea, because the moon hasn't been sighted yet. You know, it's like, this is normal. You know, when the Prophet, peace be upon him, started the first revelations and over the teachings of Islam, there were a lot of norms of the Quraysh that he bumped up against. They didn't, some of them embraced the changes, some of them fought them. This is normal. So what I want to say is that we're born into a time where music is, a lot of our music has been commercialized, it's been standardized, and then it's fed back to us through electronic media. And I think there's pros and cons to this, but even classical music, and people say to me, oh, Laila, why would you have any pictures around your voice or your music? Your voice is beautiful and so on and so on. I can tell you, for those of you who don't feel like you have much experience with singing and chanting, even classical musicians are so hard on themselves and have such strong pictures about how they're not doing it right. Even as they're striving for excellence. And it's always good to strive for excellence. But as Abdullah and I were joking a little bit, there's the angelic chorus that are praising us and urging us on, and there's the was that's saying negative things about our singing, our chanting, our music making. So a lot of cultures and a lot of traditions, and again, these are just things that I've run across, ideas that I've been working with over the past few years. It's normal for the human being to have music and sound be a part of every part of our lives. Songs when the baby's born, songs to bring the crops in, songs to haul the sails up, songs at funerals, movement, drumming and dancing and chanting. When I used to do African dance, not only were we dancing and they were drumming, we were chanting. So with us, it's our dhikr, our chanting, and our movement. Sometimes some Sufi orders move a lot more than we do, but sometimes we move. There's when the women get together alone and the men get together alone, there's sacred dance. This is all normal. And we've been raised in a time where some of us may not be so self-confident about that, because we had a music teacher who said, you can't carry a tune and you have to keep your voice down. Or we want to sound like someone on the radio and we don't. One of the reasons why we don't is their voice has been electronically modified. We can't sound like them, nor should we. We should sound like us. So it's normal for how we practice Islam and Sufism through the chanting and the healing to bump up against the norms. And the norms in our Western society around music are very specific with popular music and even with Western classical music, as I mentioned before. We may feel a little we may have embraced it and thrived on it, and that's wonderful. And also we may feel a little bit out of step with society. It's like when somebody wants to go out to the club and dance, and you say, well, excuse me, but I have to go home and do Al Weird with my friends. It's just, it can seem unusual, and that's fine. It's actually, as we know, this path isn't for the faint of heart. So I just want to take a minute and pause. I just shared some thoughts and ideas with you, and wondering if anybody wants to text or, share any question or reflection or anything like that.
So if anybody has any response or they'd like to ask a question or dialogue with Laila, just unmute yourself, unmute your microphone, or if you're on the phone, hit *6.
Okay, sounds like we're good.
Okay, good.
So we're not only encouraged to sing and chant, the Prophet, peace be upon him, was ordered to read, to recite. And research has shown, now then there are two kinds of, I'm going to call it singing for purposes of this conversation right now. There are two kinds of singing. There's singing for pleasure, for entertainment. And then there's singing to praise Allah and for healing and that kind of thing. Even regular music and regular singing, just music, even just listening to music. There's lots of information, lots of studies that have done that kids who start off with music, start off with singing, it improves their visual and verbal skills. It keeps elderly people, it keeps their aging brain healthy. Singing and music releases dopamine. It gives you pleasure, it gives you a lift. Music is capable of reducing levels of the stress hormone cortisol. When you have a lot of cortisol in your system, at certain points, it weakens your immune system, increases your risk of heart disease, interferes with learning and memory, lowers your bone density, raises your blood pressure, and so on. And I'm going to read here, research found that by just listening to just 15 minutes of uplifting music, the levels of antibodies in the human being increases. Music reduces depression and anxiety. In studies with adult choir singers, they found that when people sang together, it synced their breathing and their heart rates, and it provided a group-wide calming effect. And there's some research done, and these are things that I've just read about. I'm not a scientist for any stretch of the imagination, but I'm going to read this to you as well. In a recent study, 272 premature babies were exposed to different kinds of music, either lullabies sung by parents or instruments played by music therapists 3 times a week while recovering in a neonatal ICU. Though all the musical forms improved the baby's functioning, the parental singing, which I imagine might have to do with a heart connection, had the greatest impact and also reduced the stress of the parents who sang. And I want to share, I go to a neonatal unit once a week and I hold the preemies, and some of the preemies are having a hard time. They were born withdrawing from drugs, or because they're premature, their nervous systems aren't really regulated yet, and the heart rate might go up and down, and it's stressful for them a lot of the time. And the nurses are great, but they can't always be just holding them all day. They have a lot of things they have to do, and I can't tell you how many times I've come in there, and they're like, "Thank God you're here, here, hold this baby," and I'll hold the baby and start to sing. I'll recite qualities, and the baby will fall asleep very quickly. And I'll look at the monitor, and this is anecdotal evidence. Again, this is not a scientific study, but this is my experience. I'll look at the monitor, and I will watch the heart rate drop and stabilize, and the breathing rate slow down and stabilize. So anyway, when we're just talking about secular music here. Now, CD, I don't know if you have this book. This is a wonderful book. Oh, it's showing it backwards in my thing. Well, that's pretty fabulous. It's called The Gift of Healing. And in it, CD talks about healing with the Quran. Actually, let me stop for a minute. I'd love to hear from people just in the chat box or over the phone, if you're willing, just some of your thoughts around this, any sharings, any questions, anything, if you have anything.
You can unmute yourself, or if you're on the phone, hit *6.
One thing I'd like to do is help us move through any hesitations or blocks we might have for singing and chanting. And so it just helps me support you to get the lay of the land. If I can hear a little bit, if there's anything like that on your mind.
Laila, can you hear me? This is Zahra.
I can hear you. You're the one who texted here.
Yeah.
Alhamdulillah, sister.
And so I'm not even sure what to say because I'm completely with you. So I just want to say that I just completed a practicum on healing in music.
Alhamdulillah.
And I had this experience over and over again, which I didn't really expect because it wasn't initially my focus in my practicum. I don't regard myself to be a singer, but I love to chant. Chanting and movement together really became my form of remembrance as a result of the work that I was doing. In order to work both with myself, with my own healing, but also with other people. And I just really find, I love chanting, but I found that movement accelerated the process. And it was a particular kind of movement that I'm doing with a particular physical therapist. But just those two things together were so powerful for me. And I'm really grateful that my teachers at school, Nura Laird and Abdul Qadir Davies, allowed me to go forward with this plan that I had, because I've been really shy the whole time I've been at Sufi school about my own observations of the power of making sound. And I just feel really grateful that I was able to gather all this information and have this experience that I'm taking back into my work. So I really want to thank you for what you're talking about today and affirm what you're talking about.
Alhamdulillah, sister. If you ever want to make if your practicums available, whether the university requires it to be available to people, I'd love to read it. Maybe.
Oh, thank you. I'd love to. I'll send it to you.
Okay.
I'll email it to you. It's available that way.
Yeah. So. Well, and in my practicum for my spiritual and this is, by the way, the university is fabulous because where your heart wants to go is where they lead you. They let you go. My practicum was a concert that walked, in principle, the intention was to walk the group from where they were when they walked in to the end. And I did everything from Hildegard of Bingen, who was for those who don't know, believe me, she's not on the top 40s, was an 11th century mystic.
Right.
To songs that I wrote myself, to poems set to music, to the Doobie Brothers singing, whoa, ho, ho, listen to the music all the time. It's just like... And it was, we had a great time in the concert. So anyway.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah. So,
that sounds like it was terribly great fun.
We had a blast.
Yeah, I bet you did. Thank you. We'll be in touch then.
Okay, good.
Thank you.
And from Kabira Halima, I live in Las Vegas. There appears to be a perceived problem with people dancing, perceiving that dancing is only sexual. I mentioned wanting to do freestyle dance, and someone asked, why didn't I just go dance? Complete different orientation. I'm not seeing how to raise my hand. Can't help you with the raise your hand part, but thank you. What you wrote is very clear. I'm not going to address dancing so much. I think it's a good question in this society too. The way I feel safest and most free and most holy dancing is when I'm dancing with women in a sacred setting, and I've experienced that most strongly with Fauzia and the women drummers and dancers. And the men apparently dance too. She wrote a whole book called My Grandmother's Secrets, where she talks about where the society she grew up in, it was very normal for the men and the women to be separate and the men and the women to be dancing separately. And it was for the glory of Allah and for the freedom of movement. For me, sexuality is one note on unending octaves of our human experience. And again, in this society, I believe sexuality, and the topic of sexuality has been taken and defined and then sold back to us in a certain way of looking at it in a certain form. And of course, the NAFs always have the appetite, want to have the appetite, and when it's disconnected from holier intentions, then it spirals downward and isn't good for us. So I think we need to reclaim that and reclaim the holiness. In terms of freestyle dancing and so forth. But I can't actually so much comment on that. I know that I will dance in public. I feel much better if it's mostly women, and it really depends on the music. You know, I just not gonna. Yeah, let me just say that much. Maybe that, if that'll help you. You're welcome. We can stay in contact afterward too if you want, Libby. You're so welcome, Libby. Anything else? I see you, Selena Sanford. Okay, what are we doing on time? We're doing well on time. Let me say, if I may, just say one or two more things. Because there's also just actually, Kabir Halima, there is something to, all right, let me go back to Quran. So assuming that the Prophet, peace be upon him, and I'm going to say all the prophets were ordered to recite, to sing, who do you think, and we're modeled on the Prophet, who do you think does not want us to sing in a holy way? Let's think about this. So here it says, have you thought about he who seeks to dissuade the worshiper when he prays? Have you thought whether he is rightly guided or commands others to the awareness of Allah? This is the same surah, just later on. Have you seen if he rejects the truth and turns his back? Does he not know that Allah sees? No, indeed. But if he does not cease, we will drag him down by the forelock, a rebellious, lying forelock. Then let him call his advisors, and we shall call the guards of hell. No, indeed, do not obey him, but prostrate and draw near. So again, I want to go back to any shyness or hesitation we may feel around doing some of the chants on our way. Some of us have asked Sidi about it. I'm sure some of us have had this experience where you say, Sidi, I can't speak Arabic, should I do it in English? And Sidi's, yes, my love, and learn the Arabic. Sidi says in Music of the Soul, there's this absolutely fabulous footnote in the back about kun. He says, each letter in his Quran is a complete world and a complete existence. And when you look behind each letter, you can see Allah in everything. You can see Allah in every existence. Allah is in every heart. He moves you, he uses you as he likes, and so forth. But the important thing is it's from your chance that you know what you are. He says he moves you without any choice from you, because if you like it, or if you do not like, you are. Know that you are the beloved for him. This is from his blessing for you. So, I've also heard CD say, do your best. My understanding is if we do a chant with complete sincerity and incorrect pronunciation, it's deeply accepted. My understanding is if we really can't do it in Arabic and the best we can do is in English, alhamdulillah. My understanding is also, and this is just from my conversations with CD, you may have heard similar things. If you have the opportunity to improve your pronunciation, because I know Ibrahim has told a story about how he recited Hizbul Bahar, the Litany of the Sea. When he recited it, learned how to recite it correctly, it had a much bigger impact. If you have the capacity to improve and you don't, Allah asks us about this. And so I think it's normal to be shy. And if anything I'm saying is stop, you'll turn and you stop yourself, don't go there with it. Drop it if you would go there with it. But the shaitan has a vested interest in shutting our mouths. Whether we're just singing for pleasure, but specifically if we're praising Allah. And so what I'd like to do, well, first of all, let me just pause. Is there any questions or any comments about that?
If you'd like, you can unmute yourself. If you're on a phone, hit *6, and that'll unmute you.
So like if I'm singing a classical piece and I'm going, Laila, you should be placing that tone in this part of your voice and you didn't do that and blah, blah, blah. Or if you're sitting there with a group of beloveds, you know, your brothers and sisters chanting and going, oh, I'm not sure I'm pronouncing this right. Maybe I should just mumble. Or you go, gosh, you know, I actually would really love to recite Fatiha. More specifically, but I don't have the time. It'll probably cost too much to learn. It's like, who do you think is waswassing in our ear? You know, we were made to make sound. So it's okay. You know, this is our cutting edge. But I want to bring our awareness to it because I think that we can receive so much more. So anyway, I asked for comments or questions. Has anyone unmuted themselves?
Laila?
Yes,
This is Salima.
Hey, darling. Assalamu alaikum.
I've noticed that there's this shift that occurs in my voice, and I've heard it. I remember my son used to lead us in the Adhan, and my father had been nearly an opera singer. My son had an ordinary voice, and then one day, right in the middle of the Adhan, this voice came out that he didn't even know he had. And I think there's a point at which Allah is singing you, because I can feel the voice become beautiful. You know, could you comment on that?
I can actually. I actually, again, I'm assuming that the people who've heard me, I've often gotten the feedback that people like my voice. I will tell you, I have some classical training, but my voice began to beautify when I started doing sacred chant and recitation. And I also think has anyone had an experience when you're chanting with a group of beloveds, you're in and out weird, and all of a sudden something sublime comes out. You don't know how you did it, and you're just lifted, and the light comes in. Maybe as you experience it as light or warmth, and your throat just opens. So absolutely, I can comment on that. And again, it reminds me of what I read just a minute ago about CD saying every letter in his Quran is a complete world and a complete existence, and when you look behind each letter, you can see Allah in everything. You can see Allah in every existence. Allah is in every heart. He moves you. He uses you as He likes without any choice from you. Because if you like or you do not like, you are. You are. What He says. It's like you're the corpse in the hands of the washer when you give yourself over to the sound and the intention. That's what comes to me when you say that. Yeah. Anything else? Anything from anyone? All right, good. So, I'm going to make an assumption that people here on the call are open to walking with this. Inshallah, that's a correct assumption. So I'd like to lead us in a process, and that answers hopefully your question, Salima, your comment to me privately. So if anyone is wildly objecting to this, speak now or forever hold your note. Okay, so do the Fatiha again. Oh, and by the way, just a technical thing. It's good to loosen your jaw. You know, so often we're like, when we do stuff, loosen the jaw, relax your neck. I'm going to say something that may or may not make sense to you. If it makes sense and helps you, great. If it doesn't, never mind. When you do sacred chant, you can sing in a higher voice or a lower voice. There's no right or wrong. I actually have this on authority, not to mention on the authority of my heart. Sometimes people will hear me singing like, "Come all ye lovers, wherever you are." You might hear me go, "Bismillah Rahman Rahim." It's all good. If it's sincere, it's all good. And it's also in the tradition, by the way. So anyway, just relaxing a little bit. We'll do Fatiha and then we'll do a little process if you're willing. Actually, Zara, would you lead it for us? Unmute yourself and lead it for us. I can't hear anything. Is she unmuted, Abdullah?
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yeah, there we go.
What are you asking me to lead?
To recite the Fatiha.
Oh, sure. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. Amen. Amen. Amen.
So if you're willing now, everyone, I invite you to feel into how you would like to open your praise of Allah, your chanting. Is there something you'd like to heal? Is there a picture that keeps you stuck? Is there just an intention to be able to be freer with dhikr, with chanting, with singing in praise of Allah? Or whatever's authentic for you. Just take a moment, because we have an opportunity now to walk, to do as we were made to do. Just finding a place in our hearts that's just longing to be freer, or is afraid, or might even be going, what is this class about? Why don't you treat that voice as a voice that may be keeping you from your birthright of making sound in praise of Allah? And also as a Shadhhuli Sufi. Let's take another moment. Ya Allah. Asking you, my beloved Lord, I'm calling to you on behalf of these holy beloveds and all of your holy beloveds in all of the worlds who are created to sing your name to you, on behalf of all of those who are made in your name, carrying your 99 qualities, your essence, to open and heal our voices, our intention to praise you, asking that our ears be completely shielded and our hearts completely shielded from anything other than your sweet music calling us forward. Eventually is the sweet music in our own heart. And if you have a prayer and intention to add, just we'll have another moment. And we're going to do the Tauba healing for special qualities that Sidi gave us. Alim, Samia, Basir, Mutakalim, Hafiz. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. We say Ya Allah, Ya Shafi 3 times. And just don't be shy, just let it out. Bismillah, Ya Shafi. Bismillah, Ya Shafi. Bismillah, Ya Shafi. Now turning our attention to do Tauba, to return, to shed the old clothes and be given a new suit of clothes by our beloved Lord. Alim, with the quality Alim, imagining as we chant together the sound and the light dripping gently on the top of our head, opening our head, cleaning and clearing anything in us that is not in the complete knowing, that does not receive the complete knowing. So it's Ya Allah, Ya Alim 7 times. Continuing to bow, making Tauba. Ya Allah, Ya Alim. 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 Asking to clean and heal and clear our minds from anything, our understanding from anything that is not from our Lord. Allowing the sensation perhaps of warmth and light to move down the head, continuing to clear and clean and heal, and now into the ears. Setting the intention to do Tauba for anything that we may have listened to that wasn't right. Whether we chose to listen or didn't choose to listen, or anything that hurt our heart. Qualities of Samya and the all-hearing. Ya Allah, Ya Samya 7 times. Ya Allah, Ya Samya. 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 My beloved Lord, asking that you continue to open our hearts, to tawbah, to heal our faculty of sight. Forgiving us, our Lord, for anything that we may have looked at that wasn't right to look at, that we did not have permission to look at, or that hurt our heart. Helping us to continue to receive your healing for our mind, our hearing, and now for our faculty of sight. Ya Allah, Ya Basir, 7 times. Ya Allah, Ya Basir. 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 Closing our ears to any voice that is not from our beloved Lord. Asking for healing for anything that we need healing from. Asking for the protection for the faculty of our mind, our hearing, our sight. Now asking for complete healing, for the return, for the tawbah, for the faculty of speech, sound. Letting the sensation of light and warmth perhaps continue to move down the head and into the throat. Ya Allah, Ya Mutakallim, 7 times. Ya Allah, Ya Mutakallim. Ya Allah, Ya Mutakallim. Ya Allah, Ya Mutakallim. Ya Allah, Ya Mutakallim. Also doing tawbah for anything we may have said that wasn't right. Anything we may have created with sound that wasn't right. Asking for our faculty of speech and sound to be purified. Continuing. Ya Allah, Ya Mutakallim. Ya Allah, Ya Mutakallim. Ya Allah, Ya Mutakallim. And now asking my beloved Lord to clear and heal and clean anything in our heart that's not from you, anything that no longer serves us, anything that may have hurt us, any negative quality from the nafs that we may have held on to. It's time to let it go. Ya Allah, Ya Hafiz. Sincerely bowing our heads in tawbah, in return, resolving to keep our faculties clean with your help. Ya Allah, Ya Mutakallim, 7 times. Ya Allah, Ya Mutakallim. Ya Allah, Ya Mutakallim. Sorry. Ya Allah, Ya Hafiz. 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 Continuing to bow. And renewing whatever your intention or prayer was. Maybe to become the real human being, Iqra, the one who does dhikr, with freedom and love, humility, and power.
Let's, if anybody would like to reflect on what Laila has brought us today, feel free to unmute yourself or hit *6 if you're on a phone.
Feels like a lot of light still coming in, alhamdulillah. And if anyone would like to share, feel free. And this healing, we're welcome to use it. You can do it every day. Let me also say, while we're staggering around here in the light, I didn't even get to this book. You may be familiar with it. CD talks about how to recite the Quran on someone, how to heal by listening to it, He gives certain healings that are specific for certain illnesses, specific surahs. And he says that the Quran, in every verse of the verses of the Quran, Allah, glory to Him, deposits a hidden language that can remove illness by the permission of Allah. And in Sidi's writings, if the Quran is a little bit hard, not so accessible to you, I know it takes a while sometimes, a lot of the medicine is in Sidi's writings as well. So anyway, any sharing?
I want to thank you, Laila. It's been a wonderful, lovely time with you today. And I'm just wondering if there's anything you'd like to leave us with.
Trust Allah.
Alhamdulillah.
And be happy. And sing, make a joyful noise in the shower.
Good teaching.
Make a joyful noise everywhere.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
The world needs it. The world needs us. Don't be shy.
Absolutely.